What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 18 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast on the Arena Sports Network. I am Josh Lopez from WrestleZone.com. You can follow me on Twitter at WZJoshLopez. If this is your first time watching or listening, depending where you're watching or listening to this program, this show is about friendship, two guys sitting next to each other, shooting the shit about the business we love. For those that know me from my past in the pro wrestling experience, this is not your typical smart show, but at the same time, we shoot the shit on a lot of wrestling topics. We try to bring a different approach than most other wrestling shows, but at the same time, we also talk about some pop culture things towards the end of the show and mix it up a little bit. It's literally my favorite time of the week here on Wednesday, even though it's my busiest day of the week. To spend some time with my brother Adam and to talk about the business we love and then moving on forward through there. It's awesome. It's awesome little community we made of friends during this time. Just with the this kind of select appearances I made on the Pipe Bomb, or even the fact that Derek, a good friend of ours, Derek saw thought of even inviting me to go to the show to do warm-up, even when back in the day when guys used to be on that WSAB, all pro wrestling politics. Oh, this because I work for WrestleZone, I can't come on Wrestling Rumors warm-up and talk about wrestling. Hey, I'll talk about wrestling with anybody. Everybody knows my opinions about Dave Meltzer, but if there was somebody on a podcast from the newsletter that would want me on, I would be on there. I'm not into that pro wrestling media politics stuff. I'm not into that stuff, but I have my good friend here, Adam Daley. He's here every week through this journey since WrestleMania, and it's crazy, man. We're already past SummerSlam, and we've been kicking ass each week, man. What's going on, brother?
Nothing. What's up, Josh? Yeah, I've been lucky, man. I've got a chance to work with a lot of really good people. I'm a very fortunate dude in this because it's like since we started it at Wrestling Rumors, like up to, I mean, I've worked with a hell of a lot of good people. Like it's been really, really fun. That being said, I would like to say that starting today, you can find us on mindofcarnage.com, Wrestling with Sam and I show. We spoke to someone because of the podcast. Let's just call it a podcast marathon that we did for charity over the weekend, which was thank you everybody that tuned in. Thank you everybody that teamed with the WrestleAddict.com. It was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, honestly, because it was so close to my heart. Issues that were so close to my heart and stuff like that. So it was and listen, everyone that we got to work with, new people that I met, thank you. So definitely check out mindofcarnage.com. You will find Wrestling With featured there every week.
It's been a very busy week, but rewarding week during that process for both of us. We've been doing a lot of shows. I've been disheveled with a bunch of articles and stuff, but it's been worth it. I don't regret it. I don't lose sleep over it. It's part of the gig. It's why I love this business. And like we talked about on Sundays, kind of like we put ourselves in the wrestler's shoes where they're going to all these events and all this extra stuff, especially coming out of the New Zealand tour the week before. You got to give the utmost respect for the talents too at the end of the day. Most people know me as the positive guy, and I want to preface what I'm going to say in the next couple of things that this has nothing related to do with the on-screen product. I want to make that perfectly clear. Anytime I ever go on rants or whatever, it goes more about stuff outside the ring and stuff that bothers me in general. Okay, so I want to make that perfectly clear. This is not going to be like everything you heard this past couple of days where everybody's bitching about SummerSlam and Raw and all that. It's just not happening. But, okay, here we go. First thing first, I'm going to go in three different sections right here. One, I'm going to talk about Brock Lesnar. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the common slap in the face that most of the main roster shows get every time there's an NXT show before it. And lastly, I'm going to talk about that really ignorant ass Brooklyn crowd from this past Sunday night. And look, it's my opinion. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me or love everything that I say. I'm not better than anybody else. I don't think my wrestling opinion is better than anybody else. But I am a wrestling fan, and I take a lot of pride in watching and being a fan of this business. And I really hate it when guys or fans in general, A, take it for granted, be treated like shit. And most importantly, if you're not a fan and if you just want to shit on something the entire time, you're just a miserable fuck. Okay, I'm just gonna say it out front right there. First, I'm gonna start off with Brock Lesnar. We're not gonna go through the whole card for SummerSlam. We'll talk about it in spaces and stuff, like we usually do on here on the shows. There's so many other shows you can watch to go card by card by card by card, but I know everybody's talking about the controversy to come out of the Brock Lesnar Randy Orton match, and here's what bothers me, because over the last couple weeks, you guys noticed that me and Adam have become indifferent to the Brock Lesnar aura, the stigma, the narrative of what Brock Lesnar is. There was times where I was a big fan of Brock Lesnar from an in-ring standpoint. Now, I know he doesn't give a flying fuck about the wrestling business or its fans. And honestly, bro, I'm done with the fucking guy. I'm done. How many times has this guy gone into business for himself and didn't give shit about what the repercussions from that? I see more people complaining about Brock Lesnar matches over the last couple of years than I see people praising about it. There's always some type of controversy that comes out of these Brock Lesnar match. Dean Ambrose comes out of indifference, and then Ambrose comes on a podcast later on in a couple months saying, "Oh, Brock Lesnar's being lazy." We had the match with Undertaker. Oh, you should have been the one that broke the streak. There's so many different scenarios with this guy that I don't know what the appeal of Brock Lesnar is. I really don't anymore. I don't.
You know what?
Go ahead, Adam.
No. Please keep going.
Like I said, we talk about so many times where you listen to these former wrestlers and talk about how there's not many believable guys. I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off because I know there's not a lot of CM Punk fans out there, but I think it's true in other bullshit that Punk was not able to beat Brock Lesnar. The whole believability card, it's not just on him, it's on WWE as well, because there's no reason why Punk couldn't beat Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam a few years ago. Oh, we couldn't do that because we got to keep Brock Lesnar's UFC stigma and hype more legitimate and more badassery. It's bullshit. It's a fucking work. It's entertainment. What does Brock Lesnar lose from losing a match to CM Punk?
Nothing. And I think at that time, not to play devil's advocate, because obviously at the time, as a Punk fan, of course, I wanted CM Punk to go over, but I think it was important for the build, and there was a time where they were protecting the streaks, and with Lesnar, because there was but they were building him up on this quasi undefeated streak. Like I think he dropped one maybe to Triple H, and then just started rattling off like big win after big win after big win. So in a way, they were building him up. So I get it, but I guess where I'm at with with Lesnar and with the believability card, and whether or not whatever happened on Sunday night, and if they're saying that's what they wanted the finish to be, that's fine. I don't necessarily think that we need that as the finish, as my dog apparently is having an asthma attack behind me. I look at it this way. We separate now professional wrestling sports entertainment from combat sports. I think that if we look at this generationally, we've looked at professional wrestling differently, and at one time it was looked at as, yes, it was bigger, muscular men. It was more physical. It was more quote unquote believable because it was easier to pull the wool over people's eyes. In 2016, with kayfabe literally dead, whether or not sans questioning whether or not something's a work or a shoot when it comes to a scripted promo, or kind of a improv promo. Yeah, I think that Brock Lesnar's special attraction thing, I think that people that will watch professional wrestling, what we want is good storylines. We want interesting storylines. We want good matches. We don't necessarily want blood unless it makes sense. I think that if the story that you're telling right now with Brock Lesnar is that Brock makes you bleed, and that's all you have left with Brock Lesnar, I feel like then we just shouldn't have Brock Lesnar around. Now, I agree that I don't think that he he doesn't care about the wrestling fans. He doesn't need to, though. Let's in a fair world, let's call it like it is. He doesn't necessarily have to, but I don't think that there comes a time where, like, I think it's going to resonate in the locker room. Like, we're kind of letting this guy get away with murder, and I don't mean murder in a sense that it's not Lesnar's fault that he's going out and doing what he's told, but at the same time, you're kind of letting a guy that, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful manner, but it's not like he's in the ring 5 days a week, constantly trying to perfect his craft. He wrestles 5 times a year. If you tell him to go out there and cut Orton open, I mean, you're not. That's a heavy liability to toss out there, because I understand that he's a professional mixed martial artist, and he would devour my skull with a half of an elbow. You know what I mean? But the point is, it's that accidents happen in that profession, and when you preach how good your wellness policy is, you preach about how you protect your talent, and then you put a man out there basically to look like he was getting slaughtered. Yeah. And I get what you're trying to do, and everyone says, well, you want the Attitude Era until we give it to you. Who said that we want the Attitude Era? Honestly, who said? I think there's the same people that want the Attitude Era. Really, at the end of the day, if what you watch the Attitude Era for, if that's the only time you ever watch professional wrestling, then go find your tits and ass somewhere else and find your blood somewhere else, because it was just over glorified spots. The storytelling wasn't as good.
You get on the network. Get on CZW YouTube channel. Find anything other FMW from Japan wrestling if you want your bloody guts and all that crap. Dude, I grew up during the Attitude Era as a kid, started watching wrestling. I am enjoying wrestling as much and maybe even more now than I did as a kid.
Right.
So everybody's saying, "Oh, we need the Attitude Era in order for wrestling to be thrival or successful." That's pure and utter bullshit.
It's just an easy cop out, and it's an easy answer, because the easy fix to anything is over sexualize it or make it gory. Because we live in a society that we and I always reference this, and I can't say it enough. So, the Tool song "Vicarious" is absolutely society of 2016. Yeah. We'll go read the lyrics, and that's us. We want to watch people suffer from afar. We love Fangora. We love this. We're like, we have a bloodlust. We love to hate. We want to see. We have to be extreme with everything. And I'm sorry. I think that in my personal opinion, I understand what they're trying to do with Brock Lesnar. I understand it. I just don't like it. I don't think there's a place for it. There's a difference between, if I want that, I would watch more UFC. Okay? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I want a good story. The story in this was basically did Brock go into business for himself or not? Is basically the story. Really? If that's the controversy you're getting out of this, when you're missing, now everybody's missing the real point. The real point was supposed to be that he completely took out Randy Orton and Shane McMahon, probably setting up a match with Shane McMahon at the Royal Rumble or something, I don't know, man. I just think that was, I think now you're grasping at straws, because you don't want to put a title on him, because people are going to complain. So the only avenue you have is Brock make bleed. And that's, I'm sorry, it's unsafe. It's not protecting your talent. I'm not saying Randy Orton isn't a grown man that can't stick up for himself. But if you look at the cut that he had on his head, it's just an extreme liability, and then just the contact and stuff afterwards. Don't preach this how you're protecting your talent all the time. And I understand the liabilities of the job, but there's humanity at the end of the day too. Like, don't go out there. This is a slaughterhouse.
All right. Let me say this. I just don't know what positive thing that's helped the business since Brock Lesnar came back. I really don't. Like, you brought back a lot of USC fans that were bitter over the fact that, WWE was not TV 14 anymore. Is that the positive reinforcement we got from this Brock Lesnar thing? I'm happy Paul Heyman's back. Don't get me wrong. I love Paul Heyman as much as anybody else does. We're all Paul Heyman guys at the end of the day. We get on our knees and worship the guy. He's the man.
He's the man.
But I have a little story to tell you guys. I haven't told this before. I was at Extreme Rules 2012 in Chicago. It was the first match Brock Lesnar had when he came back to WWE. It was against John Cena in an Extreme Rules match. Brock Lesnar, we kind of had the kind of same scenario where Cena is all bloody up and everything. Long story short, I have a woman and a child sitting next to me. Girl's probably like 35 years old. The kid's maybe like 6, something like that. And she gets up the entire match. I'm not shitting you. The entire match, cutting the biggest promo on the company I've ever heard in my entire life. You think CM Punk was harsh on the WWE or any of these other guys shooting promos? This girl was absolutely insane. She said, I came here to watch a fucking wrestling show, not a fucking crime scene or a UFC fight. Right. Calling the guy, get this steroid gorilla out. She didn't even know if the guy was on steroids, and she just went, steroid gorilla guy, get the hell out of here. You're scaring my kid. And she's like, I'll get my fucking refunds for this shit.
And see, and part of it, obviously, that's the draw. In a way, yeah, that's the draw they want. They want that controversy. But I think that...
Well, I'd rather put my talent over more than UFC marks.
I agree. I agree. And here's where, I guess... This is where I am at. This is, I guess, a full circle thing for me as a fan with Brock Lesnar. When we were in Miami, when we were at Raw when he debuted in Miami, the weekend Sam and I got married. Cheap plug. Listen, I had to warn everybody around me because rumors were swirling like that Lesnar might be back. And I literally told everyone, the entire section, if Brock Lesnar comes out tonight, guys, I'm just warning everybody I might act inappropriate. And I couldn't wait for Brock Lesnar to be back. I loved Brock Lesnar. I was, not that I was upset that he left. I felt like he was such a great talent and a one-of-a-kind talent. So when he came back, I was excited. I was okay with his part-time schedule because it was giving us something. It was fun to just watch him for a while, just throw people around. It really was. But then, you have to start to think and look at the body of work and how many people he's injured now along the way. And I don't want – when I say that Brock is unsafe, guys, I understand there's a difference between being reckless and not knowing your own strength. And I just think it's hard for a guy like Brock to hit that off-on switch, Yeah. And that's – I don't want to say when people say, well, that could be a cop-out answer. Well, maybe. But I don't think when you're a one-of-a-kind athlete like Brock Lesnar, you might not – there's times where you really don't know your own strength. And you might think that you're protecting someone and that you're really not. It's just – and, when I call the guy a liability, it's not on his – a lot of times I don't think it's his own fault. But the body of work for me at the end of the day is the horse and pony show is over. I stopped being interested. For as excited as I was that I was warning an entire section, like if this man comes back, I'm going crazy. So I just don't even care if he's on TV. I think it's because, what Ambrose said on the WWE Network about him being lazy is something that we've all thought sitting at home. And that's why we all took that, and that's why WWE edited that out of the interview, because that's something that we all thought. Guys, Lesnar hasn't wrestled more than a 15-minute match since the Royal Rumble when it was him, Rollins, and Cena, I believe. And that's a triple threat match, so a lot of the onus gets taken off of him. Brock Lesnar starts the gas after 10 minutes, And again, guys, Brock Lesnar would crush me with a third of his pinky finger. I get that. But if we're talking about dumping X number of dollars into this guy, is the juice worth the squeeze is the line that I always like to use. And I just think that the juice is just stale now and is just bad and is sour and is just upsetting. Especially again, if now the only story that you have left to tell with Brock Lesnar is that he's going to make people bleed and or knock people out, it's just I don't even want to say lazy. It's boring storytelling. It's just boring.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of guys who got in the YouTube chat room. Shout out to Ed, JBL's Dragon, our good friend. What's going on, brother? I want to give a shout out to my buddy Browning from the Sports Drive, checking out the show. Thanks a lot, my friend, and our good colleague Christopher Wick, giving us a shout out too.
Chris.
What's going on, gentlemen? If you like what you're listening so far, share the show out on social media. We appreciate it. One last thing for this Brock Lesnar thing for me. I'd rather have somebody, and I get it, he doesn't care, hey, it is what it is. He doesn't care about the business. He's not going to care about what we're going to say. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have somebody who has passion for the fucking business instead of a guy that just appeals to a bunch of fucking bitter-ass wrestling fans.
Well,
that's
right.
my final point on it.
And honestly, and I want to capitalize on that. That's where I agree too. Like, listen, I know it seems like, and especially like when I put out the other night, you know, and it got a lot of retweets and a lot of likes, and like, listen, a lot of that isn't on Brock Lesnar. That's on WWE. You're letting the inmate run the asylum, and again, I don't know how much of it is really intentional or unintentional, but I do think that was supposed to be the finish. I don't think that they got the reaction they were really hoping for, because I think they're starting to realize that there are aspects we've grown past. It's funny that, like, as you grow up and as an adult, as my tagline says, Dad, underneath here, I'm going to tell a story later on. Like, you start to mature, and you're supposed to just start to appreciate the art form.
Yeah.
If you truly appreciate an art form, you know that you don't need it to be a certain rating unless it has to be. And Raw, SmackDown can stay PG, TV PG. If you know how to stretch the limits, look at Enzo, Big Cass, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, some of the stuff that they do. Other guys that really know how to toe that line. It doesn't have to go TV 14, guys. It really doesn't. And if that's what you think wrestling needs, is women that have less clothing on, more language. Okay, I can see it for emphasis, but if you think that it needs extra blood just to have blood and over sexuality, number one, you're completely doing a 180 on the women's revolution. And
Correct.
Number two, you don't love professional wrestling. You just love blood sports. And at the end of the day, I think we have to remember, live action comic book. They're telling long form Shakespearean theater. It's a children's story with adult undertones.
Yeah, exactly. And I know there's people out there all the time that love to talk about hashtag WWE logic, but it's funny how our wrestling logic, where people actually think you can bring a fucking era back, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, here's the thing: there isn't. I don't want there to be like when people say like WWE
well,
logic.
How can you bring back an era though? That just makes no sense.
You can't, because the era is there because, listen, the Attitude Era only would have worked in the 90s for a reason, because it worked in society. This does not feel like it did in the 90s. It absolutely does not. And I don't care. I understand with politically and especially with different civil unrest and I'm not going to get on certain soapboxes with that. But absolutely, there's a linear path that's going on in 2016 that absolutely went on in the 90s. Hell, I'm drinking Crystal Pepsi right now, guys. There's absolutely some 1990s going on. Or Cristal Pepsi, as my daughter unfortunately now calls it, because I made the mistake of calling it Cristal Pepsi one day as a joke. But like, you cannot take Hulkamania and try and recreate it in any other era but the 80s, because it doesn't work. It wouldn't have worked in the 90s, and that's why they turned Hogan heel, because it wasn't working, guys. You can't take something out of one certain era. Things work in any given time frame because it's in tune with what's going on in pulp culture and the temperature and the climate of society. It can never be recreated. So we have to stop trying to recreate things and invent and create our own era. Let's quit copycatting, quit looking backwards, and start looking forwards into ways that we can – how can we – like – and I know we're going to talk about it, but the Daniel Bryan Miz thing that happened last night is the perfect example of where that, to me, is where wrestling should be right now. That is a promo. That is engaging to me. Not blood, not some extra titties that are out. No, that's the most ridiculous thing that like, and I understand that people want to see that. And I'm not saying that like this isn't trying to be over PC America. It's just, I don't think that we need that in WWE TV. We don't necessarily need it. Because if you resort to that, you're saying that as the greatest sports entertainment company in the world, we have to resort to blood and sexuality, because we don't have enough creativity to tell a story.
And that's why, besides Ring of Honor, most professional wrestling companies are not able to have enough market share to have a long-lasting television distribution for years and years and years and years. Because you just stick by this old formula that doesn't work, and you're catering to an audience that's not able to be creative themselves or adapt to anything that's different. So,
and I think that's the biggest disconnect right now, is that a lot of us listen, and even the stuff that we question, that doesn't make sense to us now. I'm sure, like, once it all plays out, we'll be like, okay, you know what I mean? It makes sense. But it's a crazy growing process that we're in right now, because the business is changing. but that's good though. Like we need that. It has to. And I always keep going back to this because we all keep talking about how we can't wait till Triple H is in charge. So I keep saying adapt or perish, and that's why I keep using Evolution's line. But listen, go ahead.
Let me say this real quick. We're gonna move on to this next thing. But to everybody that was moaning about the stupid kayfabe line about how Brock got fined $500, whatever, don't look too much into that, bro. Brock Lesnar F5 Vince McMahon on TV before. He didn't get fined. He's not gonna get suspended. He's not gonna get fined. Just drop that stuff, man. I don't know why you would look too deep into that. They're not going to suspend the schmuck.
Listen, as much as I hated the way SummerSlam ended, again, because I just thought it was lazy, I'll admit I loved that troll job. The $500 fine, I thought that was fun. I thought that was funny.
All right, let's go to this next one. And guys, I want to say this. I enjoyed NXT TakeOver. I didn't love it like everybody else did. So I want to say this before I say this next thing. As a fan of all wrestling companies, I'm not just main roster guy. I'm not just NXT guy. I'm not just Lucha Underground. I'm not just TNA. I'm not just New Japan. I'm everything. I'm a wrestling fan just like you guys.
You're like Cesaro, dude. You speak seven different languages. Right, but you speak 7 different languages instead of the 5.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be wearing any tearaway suits anytime soon.
Me either, don't worry.
But guys, I have to say this, and it's been bothering me the last couple of days and the last couple of years, to be honest with you. Anytime there's a major WWE show, and I'm going to say this, yes, SummerSlam was long. Very long, especially for me, because I had to make edits and changes while doing the live article for 9 hours on Sunday night. So, yes, I understand sitting there through 6 hours is long. I understand. I'm not going to take that away from anybody. Is it too long? Yeah, probably. But every time there's a major WWE show and the night before there's an NXT show, I see a constant spit in the face in the main roster show every single time there's an NXT takeover before it. It happens every time. And it's just not a realistic comparison to make. Okay, of course, a simple 2.5 hour show is going to have a better flow than a 4-hour main roster show because it's the second biggest show of the year. I understand that. Trust me, I do. It's just unrealistic for what the main roster had to put in to make that show work, as opposed to a 1-hour television show where not all the main guys are on there every single week on NXT.
Right. Plus, let's put some things into perspective, guys. If we really want to compare it, let's take the best 2.5 hours of SummerSlam and put it against NXT, which was 2.5 hours. SummerSlam blows it out of water. On the flip side of the coin, stretch NXT to 4.5 hours, and tell me, and then compare the two shows. So I think it's apples and oranges.
I had somebody tell me last year that if they put NXT for 3 hours on the USA Network, it would get better ratings than Raw. No, it wouldn't.
No, because we have the same problems. We still have 50 minutes of commercial breaks. We still have an extra 20 minutes of straight just like vignette packages and blah blah blah, or not even vignettes, like recap packages and whatever. We still have this. It's the problem with Raw, guys, is that it really isn't the 3 hours as much as it is that we have to sit through 3 hours of a commercialized show, because it breaks the fluidity, any fluidity that the show could have. And when they're hitting certain bullet points anyway, really, you're looking at the 8, 9, 10, and 11 o'clock hours, or your power hours. Those are the big moments of the night, and that's really what Raw runs off of. The extra stuff is just like for us hardcore fans, and that's why I always DVR it, because Raw is never a 3-hour show to me, guys. I get through it in 90 minutes.
I don't get it, though. It's just weird. Like, you...
Well, it's because, dude, and I hate to keep bringing this back into like society, but it's because we live in this. It's either something's always better than whatever. than something else. You always have to pick a side. Everything has to be either better than or lesser than. It can't just be what it is, SummerSlam can't be this 4-hour extravaganza that, admittedly, I think the pre-show was a little too long. And I mean, but at the same time, if they want to do it, that's fine. And people are going to sit there. They're going to sit there and they're going to do it. But it's something that, we all do it for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I didn't even watch the Super Bowl this past year, but then again, my Raiders are usually too busy getting smacked around all the time, so it's not like they ever see the light of day when it comes to the playoffs. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, my issue is the fact that it's like every time there's an NXT takeover, everybody just blows out of proportion like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It happens every takeover. Now, I'm not saying they're not entertaining or they're not great. I enjoy it. I'll join most NXT takeovers than opposed to TNA pay-per-views that are out there.
It's just unfair to compare the two because there's really no comparison. Yeah, there's no comparison, and I don't think that, number one, I don't even think that NXT could put on a weekly 3-hour show. So to say that it could put on that, listen, they can't get SmackDown. And not that I didn't get to see the second half of SmackDown yet. I'll watch it after we do the show. But it's one of those where people are complaining that SmackDown isn't good. Well, okay, if they can't even get a second show, like you guys think that they're just trying to pour everything into NXT and they're just trying to. There's more that goes on behind the scenes than we know as fans, guys. And it's again they're catering to different fans. They know what market they're catering to with NXT. Of course, we're gonna love NXT more, because they're catering to the IWC fan. Simplistic storylines, great storytelling in the ring, simplistic storytelling in the ring, surprise returns, debuts, over the top entrances. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very simple formula.
If you're going to compare NXT to Raw, make sure to watch the NXT shows instead of just watching every takeover and assuming that's what it is.
Correct.
Watch the weekly programming as well, because I've been on a campaign for this or whatever, but I've said over the past year and a half that SmackDown has been the best WWE main roster show for the past year and a half. And that's one of the reasons why I kept my excitement for the main roster. Do I think Raw is horrible as everybody makes it out to be these days? No, but I don't watch it live anymore. Just like Adam doesn't watch it live. So I don't have to worry about being bogged down by commercial breaks. That's going to piss me off when I'm watching a match I enjoy or I want to see what happens next. But no, we got to wait for another Queen of South promo or
well, plus it's
sad.
And listen, and one thing that I'll admit that I do love about watching it taped, and I know people are going to hate this, and WWE especially is going to hate this because it's all about right now. Like I said, I truly believe what matters more than ratings is social media engagement at the time. They want to know what is hot in the moment because if people are talking about it in that moment, whether it's any form of social media, that to me means more than ratings because it means that people are talking about your brand, people are talking about your product. But I like not listen, and don't please guys don't take this the wrong way because I love interacting with people on Twitter, but I like watching a show without seeing what other people have to say first because I always look forward to watching a show then going on Twitter and seeing what people say. You know what I mean? Because I really think a lot of us are allowing other people to make judgments for us. When if we would just sit back and kind of there's something to individuality, guys. What forming your own opinion instead of kind of going and running with the flock first. But
let's copy and paste what Dave Meltzer said. Let's copy and paste what
any of us, dude. Even myself. That's why, like, since day one when I started doing this stuff, these tiny little podcasts that Sam and I were doing, I said, please don't ever anyone say that you're a fan of mine because I know that I don't have any. And I don't want anybody to take like what I say. Like I don't want anybody to agree with me 100% of the time because that's not. Nobody should. Dude, I love you like a brother, And when it comes to wrestling, like a lot of times we're 50-50, but we just know how to talk to each other about it. Other people don't. You know what I mean? Like we can joke because we know it's just a TV show, and we're talking about the characters. And other people don't. Other people still want it to be this as much as they want to make sure they throw it in your face that hey. you know how fake that wrestling is. They want to make sure that they say, oh, well, you can't do that because that's not believable. And it's like, wait a minute, you're sitting here telling me it's fake, but then you want to tell me that why would they do that because it's not believable? Like, wait, so which is it? What am I? You know, I think that it's, again, we're allowing others to kind of poison our mind. I think that I just think that society is just overly critical on everything. It's just we're a hypersensitive society that looks because everything's not catered to us, and that's all generations. There's not the entitled generation isn't an age. That's this era. It's the entitled
I feel like a lot of times fans are looking for wrestling's 12, 21, 12.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
absolutely.
If one thing bad happens, that's the end of the wrestling business. That's what I'm getting. But I want time this last one. Then
there's like 10 people that got that Rush reference. You know that?
Yes. And I agree with you. Like I just like you, brother. Like not everybody has to agree with me. Nor I don't have fans. I mean, I've been doing this wrestling media stuff for a while, but I don't have fans. If you guys like what we do, that means the world to us because you appreciate what we bring into this. But I'm not expecting the people to put me over and get on their knees for me. I'm not that type of guy. Neither is Adam.
No, my thing is if I can make you laugh in your day, that's why I do so much of this stuff, guys. It's like if I can make you guys like crack up or something like that, or just like make people think differently about it. Like that's why I bring a lot of different outside the box ideas sometimes, guys. It's not because I don't read dirt sheets. That's why I don't like. I don't kind of dive in. I don't try to pretend like I'm this know-it-all fantasy booker like everybody else does. Everybody has to stop that because, again, unless you've ever stepped into a wrestling ring, you will have no idea what it takes to put on a wrestling show. I was fortunate enough to work one show. And, again, I always say that by no means means a damn thing. But it opened my eyes to so much of, like, holy shit, I don't know anything. And then, but it was like, I want to know more. And then it was like, I want to know a lot more. Like, and thankfully Ronnie was like, no, dude, no. And it was like, it just kind of kept me away or else I would probably still be doing it. But it's just, I think that we're critical, not saying that at times we don't have a right to be. And I'm not saying that people aren't entitled to their opinions, guys. Please understand that. But I think a lot of times we're just looking for the wrong battles to pick because we just feel like we want to pick a battle. That's all.
Yeah. Ed brought up a point in the YouTube chat room talking about if there's too much content to consume. This past week I did SmackDown, the Cruiserweight Classic, TNA, that's 5, Ring of Honor, that was 8, and then SummerSlam, that was 14. I wrote 14 hours of wrestling content in a bunch of different styles of wrestling, and that's a lot. And maybe I should focus on doing other things. I want to make something perfectly clear. Wrestling's not the only thing that comes to me. Adam knows me very well. There's more to me than just wrestling, but it's my work. It's my job. It's something I got to do, and I enjoy it. Hell, I bust TNA's chops here and there, but to see Broken Matt Hardy and Eli Drake, it's fine. It's something I love to do. Is it too much? I don't know. I take every time I do an article, at least from my point of view, is a challenge to make it interesting because basically my job is to provide a theater of the mind, writing things in case people can't watch a show or they don't have the networks to watch these shows. So I'm kind of like their only last source of information, and you never know. I learn something new every wrestling show I watch. I learn something new every time I watch, whether it's a Raw, something I like or wouldn't do or whatever. There's always something different for every wrestling show that's out there. But the last thing I want to say before we get into SummerSlam, I know everybody's like, when are you guys going to start talking about SummerSlam and stuff? But we'll get into this last thing.
I was going to say real quick, Josh, if I could, with with whether it's oversaturated or not, I would say only if you allow it to. So for example, I think it's just like anything else. There's the NFL Network, there's the NHL Network, there's the NBA Network, there's and there's YouTube channels for damn near every team, every whatever. Yeah. I really think it's just I think that everything's oversaturated because it's all about driving that almighty dollar. And I just really think it's about how much each person, each individual can consume. So, and I think that now, can there be too much overconsumption? Yes, I think there absolutely can, because I think that a lot of times then people are kind of starting to watch stuff that really isn't. I don't want to. I know this is going to sound bad, but really isn't wrestling, and then they're going to grab onto it and say, "Oh, this is better," when really it's just something different, and it's not really what. I don't want to sound like too much of a traditionalist, but it's not really good. It can be toxic. You know what I mean? So I think that it's really in the hands and eyes of the.
By the way, folks, great interaction so far in the chat room. Thank you guys for checking out the show so far.
Awesome. Thank you.
We're going to field some questions towards the end of the show if you guys want to ask us anything as well. So appreciate that. Shout out to Acer in the chat room too as well.
Acer. Acer's always around. I love Acer.
The man. All right. The last thing, and I'm not gonna blow my brains out over this because it's just really not worth it. But I really felt that it was a true slap in the face to Seth Rollins and Finn Balor over booing a stupid prop the other night. Okay, I'm not gonna start swearing and go F you this, F you that, whatever. I'm gonna take the high road on that. But I really feel as a wrestling fan and just a general person in general, I think that's just ignorant. What the Brooklyn crowd towards Seth Rollins and Finn Balor is completely ignorant and inconsiderate to how hard those guys bust their ass to, one, make that program interesting and give them opportunity. Hey, we're in Brooklyn, IWC haven, one of those havens, right? And we have a match that's never been seen before. But our attention's on a freaking prop.
Well,
that's just completely disrespectful to both talent. I don't care what title looks like. Hell, we done with a spinner championship for over a decade.
Thank you.
You're really gonna hit me. But, oh, well, it's the title that they're fighting for. That's why the people are booing. It's about the story that's told in the ring with both guys fighting to be that champion. I don't care what the title looks like. Hell, you could put a Snickers bar on a title, and I wouldn't care about it.
Yeah, you know what? I was actually going to bring up. First of all, we're about to have sports teams that are going to be have actual sponsored logos like featured on the fronts of their jerseys. So we can kind of tailor back on that. But here's how I'm taking it. Finn Balor dislocated and then relocated his shoulder for this championship that you're booing. So, kind of put that in the back of your mind and let that like swim around that, that's a prop that you're booing. A man shelved himself 6 months or more for. And on the flip side of it, you know what? If you don't like the design of a title that much, start training, get to the WWE, win the championship, and change it yourself. I think that at the end, like, if you don't see what they're doing with it, and listen, I'm not saying that we have to like it, guys, and please, and I'm not saying that we don't have the right to our opinions on it, but I was in corporate America for a very long time, and this is one of the things that I disliked about corporate America, but this is one thing that you're never going to change, and it's branding. And it's branding, and it's branding. Let's look at SmackDown's 2 new championships from last night. They're obviously branding the tag titles because they want to keep a similar look, which those we're going to get to that. Those look so smooth. And they want all their singles championships basically to look alike. Sans the Intercontinental Championship and the U.S. Championship, which will probably change in the future. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, guys, it's UFC has all their titles linear. I know people think that it's an easy way out and it's a cop-out. You know what it might be, but this is a new era. This is a corporate era. This is a more streamlined era. And unfortunately, it shouldn't be about – it should be about the honor that they're fighting for that comes along with that championship title. Again, not belts, because CM Punk used to always would get really upset with fans when they would call it a belt. It's a title. It's a championship. Let me ask this question to anybody sitting out there. Are you telling me that if Vince McMahon said, hey, kid, I'm going to put the Universal title on you, random fan, you're going to boo it? No. You're going to wear that thing to sleep in like you were what's his name from UFC back in the mid-2000s. Shit, I can't think of his name, but that big corn-fed dude, white boy. I don't know. I don't know what his name is. Who cares? He wore his championship everywhere. I wore my fantasy football.
Hey, speaking of UFC, the almighty UFC, every title they got looks exactly the same.
That's my point. I mean, because that's unfortunately, I know we don't have to like it, but that's 2016, guys. That's the unfortunate ebb and flow of there's good and bad that we can pull about what today is, but that's one of the traditions that are probably going to go away in WWE is they want all their titles to look pretty linear, and I'm okay with it. I get that people are, but again, Josh, to Rollins' point, to your point, to a lot of the talent's point, it's disrespectful to the guys that are fighting over that championship because again, if you're fighting for the honor, the title just goes along with the honor.
Correct.
If we're looking at it from an outside view. On an inside view, it's a prop. They don't give a shit. That thing could be rainbow colored, and it wouldn't matter to that, guys. It's about just being able to carry it. So the hardcore title was a goddamn smashed up hub. Are you kidding me? Really? Come on, guys. We're better than this.
Pick your hill to die on.
Yeah, man. Like that one was kind of like a head scratcher for me, but but I get it. I get it as a creative mind. I definitely understand that the other side of it too.
What I'm going to do here, Adam, I know you got to talk about NXT already on warm up already, so I'm just going to do some rapid fire thoughts on the show that I enjoyed. First off, I really like seeing Hideo Itami back. I always been a big fan of his before he came to WWE, and I know everybody's gonna say, "Oh, but he's the originator of the GTS, and you're a CM Punk guy." Yeah, I am a CM Punk guy, but I enjoy Hideo Itami too. So let's not try to make issues that's not there in the first place.
And can we stop with the stealing and start using paying homage? You know what I mean? Like come on, guys.
I want to give the shout out to Austin Aries, Bobby Roode, and Samoa Joe for the fact that not only were they able to take a risk on themselves, and whether you guys like the WWE or not, or wanted to buy into perceptions of how other talents from other wrestling companies are treated, for the fact they took a risk to leave TNA, and honestly, I don't blame them for leaving TNA because there's a lot of times those guys were underappreciated and held back for people like Hulk Hogan and Flair and all these other former WWE guys. But to take a risk and do something, especially in NXT, where those guys, they should have been on Raw and SmackDown already, but they took a risk and try to make a name for themselves out of NXT, and do that on a platform like that, I think it's pretty cool. And all those guys deserve a big round of applause, especially for Bobby Roode to get to perform in a building like that. It's just pretty cool. And the way he truly reinvented his character of the whole glorious thing, I did not see that from Bobby Roode when I was a fan of him. There we go. By the way, folks, you gotta go check out the behind the scenes of the guys actually singing this song. It's on YouTube.
Oh my god, that crowd had me in tears. Bobby Roode had me in tears. I was like gushing, like over smiling ear to ear. That was so good.
Coming out of that, I really enjoyed the tag team title match between Revival and Gargano and Ciampa. It's crazy how many times I got to see Gargano and Ciampa wrestle in person at AEW in Chicago. Those guys are freaking phenomenal. The Revival don't get the amount of respect that they deserve, especially I know their whole gimmick is trying to be Arn and Tully, but those guys are one of the more smarter tag team wrestlers and smarter heels in general in all of wrestling, not just tag team wrestling, but those guys are very, very talented. I don't think they get the respect they deserve. Bayley and Asuka, I was not crazy about the first match, but I definitely enjoyed this match a lot more than the one in Dallas. Perfect send-off for Bayley. I'm not surprised by that. I want to give a shout out to Asuka because I said it on warm-up on Sunday. She's one of the most unique wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life, so I want to give props to Asuka. as a musician, to see Lee England to come out there with a crowd of 15,000 people, and he said that he was a big wrestling fan, and to play the violin like that, improv before they even intro the Nakamura song, it's just one of the coolest things I have ever seen. I love Nakamura's entrance. I know everybody's going crazy for it. I loved it too, and Nakamura and Joe was another first-time matchup that we'd never seen before that weekend. And it was awesome. I loved it. I thought it was a very good match. Samoa Joe's a tough SOB. So congrats go out to Nakamura becoming the new NXT champion. That's my thoughts on TakeOver. I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was the greatest TakeOver ever, but I enjoyed it for the most part.
Yeah, I dig it. The only thing I really want to embellish on, because I gave thoughts on it earlier in the week, and I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of really moments that did make me pop, but that tag match with the Revival, like you said, and Ciampa and Gargano, I'll tell you what, I was so emotionally invested in that, and I haven't been watching NXT just out of just so much going on, man. But I mean, I was just there was great, and I know a lot of people don't like so many false finishes and stuff, but
yeah,
I was sitting there with me, my wife, and my daughter were watching, and it was like all three of us were just like, my daughter was on the edge of her seat, like she was, it's like totally about all about like Gargano and Ciampa. So I really appreciated that because I think that I'm starting to agree with the people that think the Revival were probably the best tag team in WWE, because I truly believe there's something, that old school heat that they can get is and it's noticeable. Like I hate to always say that I gauge things by, but like it's easy to gauge things off of like other fans, but
yeah,
when you're a father and you can see, again, it's guys are watching a children's show. And when you can see that, like, my daughter understands that it's totally a work and totally a show, and so she's in on the gag, I mean, but when she is to the point where like they play bad guys really good because I don't like them, it's so, and it's like it works, so I'm digging the Revival, but that's the one thing that the one match I just kind of wanted to, I guess, like throw some seasoning on, because I really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was highly entertaining. If anybody gets a chance, if anything, don't sleep on that match. Go back and check it out.
SummerSlam, really quick. Got some news from my boss over there at WrestleZone. SummerSlam surprisingly reached the amount of people that checked out my WrestleMania article earlier this year. So thank you, people, for the support. That's pretty cool. I found out last night before I went with the SmackDown article. And SummerSlam, I want to say this. I think it's really cool, and it shows the testament and the credibility of Mauro Ranallo that the company would. This is the first actual live pay-per-view that Mauro got to call on since he came to the WWE. He's called matches on the pre-show, but he's never ever like called the pay-per-view as it was going live. So not only the fact that they're actually doing the Raw and SmackDown commentary teams for this pay-per-view, I think that's cool. That's perfectly fine. I liked it back in the day. But the fact that they would let Mauro, despite my thoughts on Brock Lesnar, the fact that they would let Mauro Ranallo out of everybody to call the main event of SummerSlam, especially in his first year in the company, that's a big, big testament to how good that guy is.
And you know what? I think not only is it a tip of the hat to Mauro, because, and Josh, you and I have been singing his praises since they've signed him, but I think it also shows that as much as we want to complain about the WWE not listening to fans, they absolutely listen to us, and that's why Mauro was calling that match. They knew that a lot of people were disengaged, disinterested, and maybe weren't really fully there with Orton and Lesnar, but Mauro brings us in, and this was a match I really wasn't that involved, at least the main event, I wasn't really. I was going to watch it, but I was very indifferent on it. But just hearing Mauro be able to call a main event and just have him put his flavor on it and I am at the point where I personally, even though it's going to keep happening, I'm going to stop comparing, saying, you know what, I really like him because he reminds me a lot of JR and stuff. Mauro Ranallo is the first Mauro Ranallo. Like, I have the utmost respect for that man. I greatly appreciate what he stands for outside of the ring and what he is as a human being. And I couldn't have been happier for a guy. And Josh, we've sung his praise. We've been singing Mauro's praises for for almost, randomly since they've signed him. So it was really good to see hard work pay off. And again, I think a lot of it was them listening to fans and finally realizing the commodity that they have.
And there's been a lot of good in-ring wrestling for the WWE for a long time, especially on the main roster. It's just we never had somebody to put the emphasis about it and put focus and make you care about those matches. Like I've seen Dean Ambrose versus Miz on SmackDown before Morrow came on the WWE, but he made those matches interesting. Like I love Morrow, and especially for someone from my end that I get to learn from the guy, especially how he calls out sequences and matches. I say a lot on Twitter, Morrow Ronaldo is my personal cheat code doing my play-by-play articles. And I have no problem admitting that because it's a learning process, and I love Morrow Ronaldo. He's the man, so I'm happy that he got that opportunity this past Sunday. Going towards the SummerSlam, one thing from the pre-show that stand out to me, I really did enjoy that Sheamus Cesaro match. Very good start for their best of the 7 series. Sheamus, like Adam predicted, Sheamus did pick up the first victory. I'm not surprised by that. I do like the fact they're kind of spacing out a little bit, actually. They didn't do it immediately on Raw the next night. So I want to see where that goes. Other SummerSlam thoughts for me, Enzo and Cass versus Jericho and Owens was a really good opener. I thought it was the right way to start off the show. Jericho and Owens are the man. I don't care what anybody says. I've been really looking for a guy to be my favorite wrestler since CM Punk left, at least from this current regime of wrestlers, and Kevin Owens is it. And I've always been a Jericho mark, so to have those two guys together is just a match made in heaven for me. So I love the opener.
Yeah, Ronnie and I keep making the joke that if, or at least I joking with him the other night, if we were a tag team, me and him would definitely be Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. Me being Jericho, him being Owens. Just the way that they act, that's exactly how we would, because we're just two completely ridiculous people. But dude, this was the perfect way to start SummerSlam. Honestly, this is the match I thought would start, and I had a hunch because Jericho is a great. He's always a great way to start the show. And I'm not saying this because I'm a big Jericho show, which I am, but I'm saying this because Jericho knows how to get a crowd going, and so does Kevin Owens. And you know what? That crowd was going to be behind Cass and Enzo anyway. You capitalize on that. You want to start that crowd as hot as you can, and I think this was the smart match to start with. Two veterans, and I know Owens is new to WWE, quote unquote, but this guy's a veteran. And dude, this to me. This match I thought really surpassed any expectations I had, and I know it wasn't the match of the night, but I could if people really if for the healthy debate, if I wanted to, I could debate that this was could make an argument for this being match of the night, I guess.
I wouldn't argue with that. It was really good, and I see a lot of time people talk about that Enzo's not that good in the ring. I think Enzo and Cass are kind of underrated on how good they are as workers in a tag team match and how they space out a match and find the right times to do hot tags. So I don't know where people are coming from with that.
I think Enzo and Cass are fine, and I think that I don't know. I do think that there's something that I have a feeling that they're going to split them a little earlier than what people want them to. I already feel like there's writing on the wall. I do. And I don't think it's Enzo's fault, and I think Enzo's going to succeed in the cruiserweight division, I think is maybe what they're setting him up for.
Yes.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think Enzo gets a lot of unfair criticism, too. I really do.
Oh, what if Enzo is the U.S. champion?
Oh, Jesus. I love Enzo, but I mean, oh God.
Hey, I'm just throwing the idea out there, folks. You never know. Anything can happen in wrestling. All right, next one here we had Sasha and Charlotte. This other match in the show that stood out to me, I really like Sasha and Charlotte, even though there was some mess ups in the beginning. I was at my uncle's house, Jeremy, and happy belated birthday, by the way. He had celebrated his birthday yesterday. But anyways, I was over there, and a bunch of family members there. And my other uncle Chris, is like a big Attitude Era guy. And I was telling him how better athletes the women in the WWE have been in the last 10 to 5 years. Like I said that most of the women on the roster are way better athletes than they were during the Attitude Era, and the testament's there. Sasha and Charlotte have good chemistry with each other. It's unfortunate that Sasha's gonna be out. It doesn't look to be a long time. She should be back by the house show that's going to be in Chicago on September 24th, so that's going to be cool. So she'll probably be back the night of Clash of Champions, or maybe the Raw after that. But congrats to Charlotte becoming the new women's champion. Fine with that. Man, well, I wasn't mad that she won. I wasn't going to be surprised either way, but you look like.
I was gonna say I actually predicted that. I'm not gonna pour on it too much though, because I know my brother Mitchell McCall is really still hurt about it, and I don't want to pour salt on the wounds because I've been there before. But I thought they were gonna go this direction anyway. But it's interesting with the injuries and stuff. I get it, but you know what, Josh? One thing I wanted to go back on to say I know that we're seeing a lot of great athletes now. But depending on what part of the Attitude Era you're talking about, like if we're talking towards the end of the Attitude Era,
I'd say like 98 and 99.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Because I was going to say, once we got into like 2000, 2001, like I definitely think there were women there that were supremely gifted athletes that obviously, if anyone watched the Women's Revolution special on the WWE Network, cheap plug, which is fantastic. I watched it with my daughter, which was so cool to watch with my daughter just for like, and I know guys, it's like cheesy, but that's great inspiration for the world. You know what I mean? And it showed, I think that back then they really didn't take the talent they had serious. We missed out on probably some really, really good wrestling in the early 2000s with the women they had.
Like I always been a fan of Lita. I always enjoyed Victoria matches. Yep. I'm actually friends with Victoria. She for her being here in Chicago, I got to talk to her a lot. She's a very, very nice human being. For anybody, I'm sure if they ever got to meet Lisa, they'll definitely echo that sentiment. But I enjoyed Molly Holly. I thought Jazz was kind of underrated as a heel, as a wrestler, and Jacqueline too.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I'll talk about like Luna and Sable and a bunch of but anyways, pretty cool sentiment. You know, everybody's talking about what's going to be the A show and the B show. Well, SmackDown took over SummerSlam for what I thought, if you're going to compare SmackDown to Raw, because John Cena and AJ Styles had the best match on that entire show. John Cena and AJ Styles represent the blue brand, so I got to give the SmackDown the top billing over Raw this time, even though Ranger did get his ass kicked, unfortunately, and I am an Orton guy. But AJ Styles and Cena was one of my favorite matches this year. I knew it was kind of slow at the beginning at Money in the Bank. That's why not a lot of people were crazy about it. But this is the match I knew was going to happen. And again, for people to say that John Cena buried people and doesn't care about the business or putting people over, shut the fuck up. I don't want to curse a lot, but come on already, please.
And you know what? Here's the deal. Look at John Cena's SummerSlam record and tell me that he doesn't put people over. You know, I mean, John Cena he gets a ton of unfair criticism, but you know what? I will actually, if we want to do a SmackDown versus Raw thing, let's do SmackDown versus Raw. I'll give the nod at SummerSlam to Raw because I actually listen. Styles Cena definitely match of the night. I think that that's unquestionably the match of the night. Now, if I'm ranking 2, 3, 4 though, I'm going Balor Rollins. I'm going Jericho Owens versus Enzo and Cass. I'm going Charlotte and Sasha. So then, you know, I mean, yeah, you get number 1, but then you get 2, 3, 4. All goes to Monday Night Raw. So I'll give the nod to Raw.
I just feel like, yeah, and I know the show was long, but the fact that Styles and Cena were able to steal the show where it affected the rest of the show's flow in a way. Right. That's why I'm going with SmackDown on that end.
That's a good point.
But I understand where you're coming from. I totally see that.
Oh, dude, that match totally changed the vibe in that crowd. It gassed them. I mean, and dude, it gassed us at home. I was running around. It had me Listen, I'm not like one of these idiots that, and I don't, obviously I'm saying you stupid idiots there. That way everyone knows I'm being kayfabe, guys. But I'm not one of these guys that doing these shows that tries to pretend like, oh, I know better and I'm not a fan. Guys, this match had me on the edge of my seat, on top of the ceiling, running around. Like it had us all jumping around. Like it's one of those that you get emotionally invested in regardless whether you like these guys or not. And I know people think that false finishes are overused, but at the same time, I think that
SummerSlam.
it's SummerSlam, but you know what? We can't. Okay, are false finishes really that overused, or is the first finish always going to be the finish? One finisher and done. I don't like that anymore. We need it to be that back and forth, that almost Iron Man versus Captain America, boom, 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 boom kind of feel.
But that was the story of the whole program.
Exactly.
AJ wanted to prove that he could beat John Cena by himself. And no matter how many finisher it had to take, hell, he hit his Styles Clash and he still needed to do the forearm after that to pick up the victory. Yeah. But big props to AJ. That guy is a star now. And for all the complaints about how he lost to Jericho at WrestleMania and he lost to Roman the first couple matches, that's all washed away now. So I'm happy for AJ. That guy's phenomenal performer. The guy's the man. And I got to give props to Cena, too, because he just snapped a Canadian Destroyer out of nowhere. He just did it like nothing. And he struggles with those.
Cena's pretty quick for his size, too. Like, I know I'm not going to say he's the quickest guy out there, guys. Like, please don't. But you know what? Now that they're allowing him to kind of open up his repertoire again, where they're not really like limiting him down. And guys, I truly believe that they had to protect their investment. I know we knocked him for the 5 moves of doom, but he's showing now that everyone's saying, well, he had to learn more moves. Go look at his old OVW prototype stuff. The man knew how to wrestle. It just, you have to protect your investment. Now that he's showing what he can do, but like, let's look at the body mass he's put on. The dude moves very well for how big he is. And again, I don't think Cena gets anywhere near the credit he deserves. I'm not saying you have to like the character. Just like with Roman Reigns, I don't like the Roman Reigns character, but I have a hell of a lot of respect for the man. Cena the character is starting to grow on me though, because it's like trollingly funny sometimes. So it's like, I don't know, but dude, this match was phenomenal.
I felt really bad for Dolph and Dean. I don't know what happened. I enjoyed it for what it was when I was covering the match. I thought they were putting good time into it. I just wonder, like, if I would like switch some of the matches where you would had AJ and Cena right there, right? Like, I would have put the woman right there next to them, that 6-woman tag match. I would have put that there. Yeah, you get your Nikki Bella pop, but you could have still done that. By the way, that was a little decent match. I wasn't crazy about it, but that was fine for what it was. And then I would put the tag titles on there, and you got Heat, and then you got, how I would have flipped it over a little bit, where you did the 6-woman tag, and then you would do the tag team titles, then you would do Ambrose and Ziggler. I don't know. I just felt bad for the guys because I thought Dolph really busted his ass in that match, and he was trying everything. And I don't know if it's just everybody's just indifferent to Dean Ambrose. Is it just him now that we're gonna deal with this every pay-per-view match he has? I don't know.
You know what? I think this is the problem with it, and I don't want to I am going to rehash something because it involved 2 of my favorite wrestlers. And guys, it's just, I like to put perspective on it if this is the first time you've ever really heard me talk about stuff. But when Punk had the World Heavyweight Championship, and they basically made him drop it backstage just so that it could be a part of the Jericho and Shawn Michaels storyline back in 2008, I believe that was. Was that 2008 or 2009? I think 2008. But I don't like that they did that, and even it went from one of my favorite guys to the other, my other favorite guy. But it made sense because in hindsight now it made sense. I still don't like that they did it. The reason why I'm bringing that up is right now I feel like all of us look at Styles and Cena as the real SmackDown Championship match, and I think that if in a perfect world, if that would have had the championship, and if Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler would have been like a grudge match, I think that match would have been more well received. Because I truly believe in my heart of hearts, we saw AJ Styles and we saw John Cena, and we said this is really the champion of SmackDown. and it kind of then when you see what, not that it was a bad match, not that it was, I don't want to compare the two. I just think that the title was in the wrong feud. And I know it's a prop, but at the same time, I think that prop devalued the Dean Ambrose Dolph Ziggler feud, because almost a grudge between them two would have told a better story than for the championship. And Styles and Cena already felt like it was for a championship.
Yeah. I thought it was a smart choice to not have the Roman Rusev match actually going on.
Yeah.
No problem there. You needed that cool down period, so I'm fine with that. And hey, I kind of like Roman's facial expressions during that brawl. He still has kind of a badass feel, and I kind of like that. He'll say a couple things, but he's just ready to fight, and I enjoy his matches, so I like the fact they're going more of a badass route with him. I don't see him cutting promos about how I apologize and I need to redeem myself. I don't see this road to redemption thing. He's just being himself and being a badass, so I didn't mind the fact they didn't have the match at SummerSlam.
No, I didn't mind it, and it's showing that he's got it.
It.
No, you know what? Listen, I made this joke. It's funny that everybody wanted this to be the bathroom break match until it was booked as the bathroom break match. And then wrestling Twitter was like, this is garbage. I was like, this is what you guys wanted. This is what everybody was talking about. And they're giving it to you, and you're still complaining. But,
yeah, the guy who made event at WrestleMania this year was a bathroom break.
And
let me remind you that. Yep.
He was basically booked as an intermission. I mean, this was absolutely intermission.
That's still punishment.
He's absolutely
not punishment.
Absolutely, So I don't know, man. I feel like regardless with Roman, it's at the end of the day, people are still going to complain. I'm kind of over that though.
Yeah.
I tune it out and I actually enjoy. I wish they would put the Universal title on him just to see the heat that they would get, because I think that I do. Yeah. That's, to me, that's the heat in 2016. That's the kind of heat I want to see. I know people don't like this, but when you're pissing off your core fan base, but they keep tuning in because they want to see this person eventually drop a title that they're also booing, that to me is the story that I want to see. I don't want to see Brock make blood. You know what I mean? Like, to me, there's more value in, as much as people don't like it, already putting the ship again right on Roman Reigns. And I don't like the Roman Reigns character, but I love to boo him, and I love watching other people boo him.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my other friend Justin from the Sports Drive, Justin Hill, a big wrestling fan as well. Yeah. We got a lot of people checking this out today. That's what's up, man. That's awesome. By the way, I think we're all good with Balor and Rollins. I thought it was a good match. I really feel bummed with the fact that he got injured, but the fact that people are calling Rollins reckless and they're waiting for Bret Hart's response to see what he thought about that. That's just rude and ignorant. I don't know. Like, to call him reckless like that, okay, maybe he should stop doing the buckle bomb and stuff, but yeah. I agree with what Taz said on his show the other day. It's the business. It's what you signed up for. Correct. And Finn Balor was not going to Taz said on the show, if nobody wanted to do the move, they're not doing the move. Right. It's that simple. And I just feel bad that for the heat that Rollins is getting out of that scenario. First off, their attention to the match was taken away over what a title looked like in the first place, which got me pissed off. And then secondly, we got to deal with this injury. That's really unfortunate.
Yeah, that one was an emotional moment the next day on Raw with Balor, because that's something that this man has driven for and worked for such a long time, stayed down in NXT just to really make sure that NXT was still in a good place when he left. The ultimate company man, the marketing, the money that's behind him with marketing is out there through the roof. It's just, there is no glass ceiling. It's I don't want to say, not to make comparisons, but this is really a very unique character that a lot of people haven't seen before, where somebody plays a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of scenario, and it's something the fans really grab onto. We live in an age of anti-heroes. We live in an age of, we can have sympathy for Dexter Morgan, a serial killer in a TV show, right? So, and it's I don't know. I feel bad for a guy that truly loves the business, and came up the right way, came up with respect, came up by paying his dues, came up by doing, I mean, and I just, you get emotionally invested in characters, and yeah, it sucked. It was kind of a tearjerker watching him have to relinquish the title on Monday.
Overall, I enjoyed SummerSlam more than I did last year. I thought it was a lot of good matches on the show. It was a long night for me, but it was worth it. Maybe they should reconsider going down a little bit. Maybe just go for the 3-hour show. Like, I don't mind if you do an hour pre-show. It is what it is, but I don't know. Maybe they should reconsider going down. But I understand why they did it. But it didn't affect my enjoyment either way of the show.
I'm okay with the 4-hour SummerSlam. I think it was the 2-hour pre-show, like when the matches really started 2 hours beforehand. It was just too bad. Like 4-hour main show, I totally dig for SummerSlam because it is your second biggest pay-per-view of the year. But in a way, I would almost make the argument that maybe the Royal Rumble should be 4 hours instead, because then you could typically have your typical 3-hour pay-per-view with the hour Royal Rumble added on at the end, because the Rumble itself typically runs about an hour, somewhere around an hour, on average runtime. So, that could be you could make a case that the Rumble should be the one that's 4 hours, because then you would still be able to fill up a pay-per-view. Well, then I guess it thins out too. Well, no, with 2 shows now, though. Hey, why not?
Why
You're
not?
welcome. You're welcome, WWE. There's your next 18-hour marathon that we got to deal with now. I guess be careful what we ask for, guys.
I know, right? Hey, they're really going the Super Bowl route with WrestleMania, man. lot of live coverage and yep.
And listen, and we drink it in.
It's their own network, so they have that right if they want to.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'd rather. All kidding aside, guys, I would much rather, even if I'm not really paying attention, because you don't have to turn it on. But if I did decide to turn it on, I want something that's hyping up the event that's coming up. Because all SummerSlam Day, you're fired up because it's SummerSlam. Don't act like you're not. You got that SummerSlam fever, and So I do want to see them talking about it and stuff. I don't want to see Bash at the Beach whatever year. On any other given day, absolutely. I love the randomness of the network on what's on at any time, but when it's big event days like that, I do kind of dig it. As much as we knock it, I understand why they do it from a business side, and it is kind of
cool. By the way, we'll go quick through Raw, and then we'll talk about SmackDown, because I know that's a lot of what everybody was talking about from last night, and I got some thoughts on that as well. Raw, I thought was decent. I didn't think it was great or anything like that. I thought it was decent. Again, very unfortunate that Balor had to relinquish the title, so it did kind of dampen the mood for a while. But I do like where they're going with the 4-way match to determine the title instead of just waiting for Clash of Champions. Give people a reason to watch next week. I thought that was fine. Rollins and Zayn had a really good match. Got to give props to Sami Zayn for selling like that, because people actually thought he was really hurt. So I got to give Sami Zayn some props for that. I enjoyed Owens and Neville. They always have good matches with each other. The Jericho-Owens backstage thing with Tom Phillips is gold. I loved it.
He's like, just answer him. You know what he wants. You know he's going to say it anyway.
You stupid idiots.
Them two. Listen, Jericho and Owens. It's so fun to watch him too. It really is.
Yeah, it is. By the way, please, I feel really bad because I actually think this guy's a nice human being and all, but I felt bad for Titus O'Neil, man. He just got left out there in a limb. It was not a good night in the office for the big man.
Oh, yeah, he kind of was. Yeah, listen, we all have bad days, so the whole time I was like, damn, Titus, please pull through. Please.
Just one of those days.
Yeah, and that's what I'm not knocking him for. Like, everyone was kind of pounding on him, but it's like, listen, you go out in front of 15, 16,000 people, and let's see how good you do.
I thought he picked it up a little bit towards the end, but that was always takes that one
totally.
Up, and then everybody's going to just winch on you.
Well, it just got into his head. I think it was one of those where the first flub kind of got there, and he realized that he kept trying to correct himself and just fumbled the correction. But listen, at least he didn't go out there and say that he was wrestling because he likes big sweaty men. So I mean, there's always a silver lining to every dark cloud, right?
By the way, like I understand where you're going from with this. I know that most squash matches every single week can get repetitive and uninteresting, but these guys, where they're cutting their promos before, and it's why I enjoy these Braun Strowman squash matches. First, we have the guy who doesn't. First, we have the guy that doesn't say anything at all. The guy's trying to get interviewed. Use your opportunity to make a brand for yourself, become a big independent star. He doesn't say a word. The week before that, we got a guy who said, "Oh, I'm doing this for $500." The guy told me I can get $500. I can do this. And now we got a guy fighting for sweaty because he likes big sweaty men.
Johnny Knockout, baby. I'll never forget Johnny Knockout. I'll be talking about Johnny Knockout 10 years from now for some reason because of like that 5-minute squash match. I promise you, it's that ridiculous. I will not forget that.
I gotta say this. I love the little Eva Marie snippet thing they did on SummerSlam, by the way. That was just gold.
Brilliant. And especially when she tweeted out like 10 minutes, it was either 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, like on vacation, just relaxing, like eating ice cream and stuff. Eva Marie is so good right now.
I'm having exemplary strawberries.
It's the perfect gimmick. It's just perfect. Sometimes, you know, guys, and I know a lot of people still are not. We don't know. And in fairness, we don't know what Ava can or cannot do in the ring because it's been months now since we've seen her.
Yeah.
All of that aside, let's all agree that this is the perfect gimmick in the perfect time for the perfect person. And it's rare that things line up so perfectly. I'm appreciating every minute of this. And I'm going to until they drop this, I'm just going to enjoy it while we have it.
Maybe it's just me, but every time Charlotte has the leather jacket on her street clothes, she gets more hotter and hotter as these shows go by.
I think it makes her promos more believable too.
Yeah, her promo skills got way better since she left her father.
Yes.
That sounded weird a little bit, actually.
No, that's true though. Listen, once she separated herself and she didn't have to worry about.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I mean, because you know she's, and not saying that she still doesn't have an accessory by her, but she is growing a little bit more comfortable in her skin. You know, but I really never had a problem with her mic skills. You know, I could see why. You know. Again, I understand the complaints, but I never had a problem with them. I don't mind people being a little bit green if it means that we're headed towards not only for like, you know, progress, but towards a better show. And yeah. It's fun sometimes watching these talents kind of grow up and mature and hone their skills right in front of our eyes. So I don't mind it. I don't like to nitpick it that much because again, if you're better, go out and do it. Don't sit on your couch. Go out and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Bailey made her debut on Raw this past Monday night. I'm fine with that. That's cool. I'm happy for her. That was a pretty cool moment. Usually on Raws after WrestleMania SummerSlam, you always get one person to come out new. So the fact that it was her, I thought that was perfectly fine.
As soon as the Bella, as my wife likes to call her, my lovely wife Sam, I had to toss that in so I don't get stabbed. But listen, as soon as Nikki Bella came back and went to SmackDown, I think it was a given. We all knew that Bayley was probably headed to Raw. Yeah. But I wish that I do just the fan in me does wish that they would have put Bayley on SmackDown just so the Horsewomen would have been 2-2 on each show. You know. But that's being overly nitpicky without seeing any kind of big picture or anything. It's just, you know, short-sightedness, guys. That's all.
And who knows, maybe one of these days before the Rumble or something, there's like a trade that goes on. You never know.
I absolutely think that's going to happen. I'm glad you brought that up because why wouldn't they? They're already playing the free agent cards. They're already playing the we think you would do better over here cards. You know, you're being underutilized. Absolutely, I can see talent trades coming, and I think we want that as fans, right? Don't you think instead of just having like the old school days, right, when the trades would happen at the draft? Josh, wouldn't it be awesome if all of a sudden one day we're doing our show right here and it's like breaking news, SmackDown trades this person to Raw, like, you know, like on a random Wednesday afternoon when nobody would, and we'd be like, wait, what? Talk about drawing attention to the brand. I think that to me is stuff that they will tap into. That once they do, people are going to be like, okay, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows, and people are finally going to start to see the direction they're going with the brand extension.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to your point, remember we were doing the show when they announced that they were going to do the draft. You remember that? And
yes,
that SmackDown's going to go on Tuesdays. Wednesday's a good day, people. And you never know what's going to happen.
It fits. It just fits their schedule. They work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. Yeah. Wednesday is like their. I think that's also conference days too. I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know. I could be wrong with that, guys, but I thought typically it was Wednesdays was conference call days for them, guys.
All right, so next week on Raw we got Sheamus Cesaro. That'll be match 2 of the best 7. But a main event next week will be Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Big Cass, and Kevin Owens. A 4-way to crown the new Universal Champion. Vacant is running wild all over the WWE right now. We got a vacant Universal Champion. We got vacant SmackDown Women's, vacant SmackDown Tag Team Champions. This dude is the man.
I want WWE vacant in the Celebrity Hall of Fame wing of the Hall of Fame. I want vacant in there so bad.
Do it.
Very highly decorated champion.
If we could get Vacant to endorse this show, that would be gold.
It's one of the greatest handles on Twitter. It really is.
Anyways, who you got in this one?
Oh man, can I give my prediction next Wednesday? No, I guess it doesn't work like that. So, I could truly make a case like a true booker. I can make a case for any of these guys to try and say like, oh, this is the reason why they're going. I think Rollins is the easy answer, and it's the smart answer. I just don't know that. And again, I agree with everybody else. I think that accidents happen. I don't think Seth Rollins should be held accountable for anything that's going on with Finn Balor. But at the same time, I think that they don't. They obviously didn't want the title on Seth Rollins right now either.
Yeah.
So I know people aren't going to like this, but no, screw it. People are going to like this. I'm going with Kevin Owens. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens. I'm going with KO.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. I wouldn't.
You know why? Listen, people, here's my pitch. Here's my pitch to WWE Creative. I say that Roman Reigns would bring the title a hell of a lot of attention in one manner because, you know, it really, you're putting it back on Roman and it's going to draw heat, which is good. Putting on Rollins, a lot of us want it on Rollins. It's almost the expected. It's almost where we expect it to go, and it's the smart money because he is the face of the company. But Kevin Owens is that IWC guy. Who's really the most upset about this new championship, what it looks like, what it's called, the IWC? What man? I know Rollins already spoke out about it, but Kevin Owens is a guy right now that no matter what he does it in such an eloquent and short, sweet way that he shuts people up. I would love to see Kevin Owens win this championship and basically shove it down fans' throats like, you want to boo this championship? I'm a prize fighter. This is my championship. I think there would be something, and you would see fans instantly love that championship. And I think people would say, no, we wouldn't, but within weeks, people would be like, you know what? That title isn't as bad as what I thought it would. I would put it on Kevin Owens. That's my pitch.
Raw's in Houston next week, and I usually say former Shield guys have bad luck in Houston because CM Punk beat the entire Shield in a handicap match in TLC in Houston.
Flew to a wedding.
Yep. Here's the thing: if Rollins wins, I don't know who he fights. That's the thing. I'm at a struggle here because is it gonna be Zayn? Is Zayn gonna go for another shot at him? But I just don't know who it is. Is Triple H gonna come out of nowhere? Probably not. Is somebody from NXT coming up? No, probably. I just don't know who would Rollins fight.
Well,
if he won the match.
If we're going with a potential, which everybody is still on this, and it sounds like, especially when Rollins was on Talk is Jericho, it sounds like at least, I mean, plans may have changed because, and you know what, guys, real quick shout out to Creative. I know a lot of people bash them, including ourselves, a lot, or criticize. I should say criticize, not bash. But realistically, if you look at all the suspensions and the injuries and everything that they've had to kind of like rewrite around, and probably storylines we'll never know, that will never see the light of day, and maybe long-term plans that they had, we'll kind of give a shout out to them guys and gals and who's ever putting these shows together, because I think they're still doing a good job with how hectic of a year it's been. But I really feel like they want Rollins to chase the title right now, and I think so do we. And who's closer? And if they want Rollins to eventually go again, unless it's changed, but it sounds like they do want Rollins Triple H. Who's the closest to Triple H in this match? That would be Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens is always subtly talking about or to Triple H. I think if there were going in some direction, which we'll never know with Balor, maybe Kevin Owens is a good replacement, not in the same fashion that we thought we would see, but Kevin Owens would be a good Triple H kind of henchman kind of guy.
And not only that, even if Owens' title reign is not that long, like you say all the time, first title reigns is not the only long-lasting memory of that guy's.
They're litmus tests, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be a perfect witness test, especially beforehand. You'd be getting into WrestleMania season, and you could figure out whether you believe Owens is a main event WrestleMania type of guy or not.
Correct. And, and I think that we all ultimately want to see, as much as we hate Brock Lesnar right now, or the Brock Lesnar scenario, the character and just the overall, just what are they doing with him. I think the one match we all do want to see is Kevin Owens and Brock Lesnar. And look, they might be building to that, where Shane McMahon versus Brock Lesnar happens and Shane can't beat him. So maybe Shane goes out and gets Kevin Owens, and Owens ends up beating Lesnar at Mania, and that's the payoff for us fans, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But this could be a way that, put the title on Owens for a little bit and then, get it back on Rollins or whomever. Wherever you wanted to go for your WrestleMania plans, you could always, if you wanted it to be whatever you could always get back on track, I guess is what I'm saying. I think it would be a nice litmus test.
Rusev will crush Roman Reigns. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens in this match as well, brother. I'm going to go with Kevin Owens. Yep.
Okay.
I just think one way or another, Seth Rollins' ego is going to get him into a spear, and then right as Roman's about to win, here comes Rusev, and then there's a pop-up power bomb. Bam.
Yeah, I think that place will go crazy if Kevin Owens wins this championship. And again, the man makes the championship. The championship doesn't make the man. So I promise you. And listen, I still firmly believe that Seth Rollins is the man. But Kevin Owens will make this championship seem a lot more relevant when people are knocking it right now. A lot like Kurt Hennig made the Intercontinental Championship a hell of a lot more relevant in the 1980s. So.
We're going to get into our last topic here before we get to shooting the shit. Speaking of titles and everything, we got 2 new titles on SmackDown. And I like the fact they're going just with regular SmackDown Women's SmackDown Tag Team titles instead of, the WWE Intergalactical Women's Championship or the WWE Planet Mars Tag Team Championships.
But what happens though? Say somebody has the SmackDown Women's, championship, and they get drafted to the other brand next year. Do they have to relinquish the title, or how does that work? I guess we'll find out. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And we're talking about creative. I think more than the last couple of years, they kept us questioning and then having most answers. So I got where you're coming from with that point of view.
And you know what? That's why I don't like the term WWE Logic anymore, because it's not, guys, this isn't like any other professional wrestling company. They're telling long-form stories here. So their Logic, they're trying to tell short and long-term stories at the same time. So, of course, traditional Logic from old school days where it was a little bit more simplified, it's just a larger audience now, guys. And they're really tapping into different avenues that they've never, they're testing out different things. And, I don't know. It's just enough's enough,
guys. I did like how they started off the show yesterday. I thought it was really cool. Mm-hmm. The fact they're doing a tag team tournament, I think is fine. I'm fine with that. It adds stuff for Backlash. It's going to be good. Hey, I'm going to have more fun covering Backlash than watching the New England Patriots with Jimmy Garoppolo getting blown out against the Arizona Cardinals the first night of Sunday Night Football. So I'm just going to get that out of the way.
I have no idea what you just said to me, but I'm pretty sure it had nothing to do with the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo who?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
And it sucks because I just watch my Raiders and that's it. So I guess that's why I'm just so separated from what Garoppolo is. Janine Garofalo, like the comedian, or not?
No.
No.
But
Okay.
he is a brother Nero. He is obsolete. So we'll get that.
Delete.
But just delete Monday Night Football while we're at it too, please. Anyways, I really enjoyed the match American Alpha had with Breezango last night. It was really, really good. And I'm glad that WWE gave Breezango the time to show what they could do in the ring. That was an awesome-ass match. We also found out that the women's title will be defended in the six-pack challenge. So I think that's pretty cool, actually. A little something out of the box, especially at a pay-per-view. I'm perfectly fine with that. Other stuff on the show, we had Bray Wyatt meet Randy Orton for the first time. I'm fine with that. That's going to be the fall feud for SmackDown. We were kind of expecting it a while back ago, so I'm fine with that. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt.
So what? Okay, so truth be told, guys, I did miss the last hour of SmackDown last night.
Mm-hmm.
Only because so wait, did they embellish something with Bray and Randy Orton a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, Randy was like, hey, nobody expected me to be here tonight. And he was basically saying, oh, everybody says that Brock Lesnar is a tough son of a bitch, but here I am. He put that stuff to the bed. And then Bray Wyatt came out, and he's like, you're only just a man, but before you know it, you'll be dead. And he was just sitting in the rocking chair, and the lights went out for a moment, right? So I'm like, oh no, Bray's going to attack Orton. The lights get on, he's out of the chair, but nobody's there. He enjoyed it. So gotcha. I thought it was kind of cool, actually.
Okay, yeah, because I missed the last hour of SmackDown. I caught up until, I guess it would have been Carmella just taking Nikki Bella to the woodshed. And then something happened with our cable box. Long story short, so we're like, screw it, had to go to bed. Today was my daughter's first day at school, and so I had to wake up super early for that. And then I sat down and was gonna watch it before we did the show, but started BSing with one of my friends over in Wales, and we were talking for about 2 hours, and it was good to catch up with him. He was one of the best men at my wedding, so awesome. I didn't get to see the end, but I did get to see, and this is like a little dad moment. That's why I have dad listed down here. And I know people like a lot of guys aren't going to understand this. Some guys are going to understand this, but it's my daughter's first day of school ever today. She started first grade, and she wanted to wear her WrestleMania little Scooby-Doo WrestleMania T-shirt, and she took like a little like CM Punk and little AJ figure to school, so that way like her words, mommy and daddy, were still with her. The cutest thing in the absolute world. If you like want to make a grown man's heart melt, give him a daughter. It is the craziest, most mind-blowing thing, and it was wild. So yeah, needless to say, at the end of SmackDown, like we always talk about real life kind of getting in the way. There was just a lot of really cool stuff going on in my personal life, and it was cool. So back to the normal wrestling show. But listen, guys, we like to bring in real life, and I always make sure that like I always watch the show for you guys so we can talk about it. But this is one of those moments where my daughter had to take precedence, guys.
No, it's freaking awesome, bro. I know that's probably one of the biggest moments so far for you, just being a dad, just to have that moment.
I'll put it out there. I have no problems. I'll put it out there. We went to check out a room yesterday and everything, right? And I walked in and I'm all cool, calm, collected, whatever. And then look down at the table. You see your daughter's name on a desk, and you see that's where she's sitting and all kinds of stuff. And I just was like, oh, and it just like tears just started flowing. It's like. It's one of them proud moments, like as a parent, man. Like you don't realize how much it's gonna hit you until it's like right there, and it's like, oh man, my little partner in crime, she's off on her own. And, she's like a 6-year-old, like in first grade.
By the way, folks, if you didn't get to see the show last night, I will recommend go seeing that Breezango American Alpha match. I'll definitely recommend that. Also, like the little Kurt Hawkins facts they got put out there.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I did catch that. Oh, I love him so much. I love it.
That's gold.
I like that Winter fears that Kurt Hawkins is coming.
And Def almost had a Kurt Hawkins experience.
Def had a near Kurt Hawkins experience. These things are brilliant, man. They're so good. They're so good.
Speaking of brilliant, and I thought Sam would love this, but they had Renee come out and interview Nikki Bella, right? Because that was her return to ring, right? And right as she's about to talk, bam, from behind, Carmella attacks her from behind. I'm like, holy snap. I'm like, all right, Carmella, I see you.
I thought that was smart, dude, because I was very disinterested in her character, and I was worried because I didn't think – I was like, you know what? This is kind of without Enzo and Cass. I don't want to say it. It just didn't seem. Something seemed like it was missing.
Yeah,
it was missing. This is what it was missing. I thought this was very smart for them, and now I'm super pumped to see what they're going to do with Carmella.
Yeah, but that was the perfect timing because I could picture like Sam, oh, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares about your recovery and this and that.
Yeah, Sam enjoyed it. Sam, it was the perfect time in Sam's mind because it could have happened about 30 seconds prior or like 2 weeks prior, and I think Sam would have been a lot happier if we're keeping it 100.
AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler. Badass match. Go check that out, folks. That's probably the best match for at least the TV side this week. That was sick.
So what happened with the finish there? Who won?
Styles won.
Okay, so we're looking at Styles Ambrose.
I think that could be the way, but unless Dolph out of nowhere fights somebody, I have a feeling Ziggler could find a way to make it a triple threat. I could.
Yeah, because we still have a couple weeks, and if Bray's kind of already starting to tangle with Orton a little bit,
You got your 3 main events though: Styles, Ambrose, Orton, Bray, and then Styles, Ambrose, Ziggler, Bray, and Orton, and
women's championship,
yep,
tag team championships, Miz. And let's face it, after that promo last night, people are going to be paying attention to Miz, and it's about time people start paying attention to Miz.
Let's get into that a little bit.
Please start.
I like Daniel Bryan. I'm a big fan of his. I have a hell of a lot of respect for the guy after reading that book he posted a couple years ago. I got it right here next to me on my little desk right here. But Miz had every right to snap at Daniel Bryan last night. Whether Bryan actually feels that Miz is a coward or wrestles as a coward, that I don't know. But especially to say that to a guy who had matches with AJ Styles, Zayn, Owens, Cesaro earlier this year, busting his ass and most of the time getting his ass kicked during the process before he became the Intercontinental Champion. The guy busts his ass. I don't care what anybody says about the guy. I always enjoyed Miz's work. Yeah, the whole WrestleMania 27 thing was a flop or whatever. It should have been Punk. I get that. But Miz busts his ass. Right. And to say that he wrestles like a coward is a total slap in the face to that guy. And I'm glad he went off. Not only does that make him more relevant, but it makes that title more relevant because he became one of the major heels on that show last night, and I could have been happier for him.
And listen, this is watching that back, and I do think, guys, that part of it is absolutely a work. I think that it got a little more real than what they expected it to. And the only reason I'm saying this is I just read an article, and I think it was on with Spandex. Through Uprocks, and but they grabbed it was grabbed a Vince interview from somewhere else, and it was interesting because he brought up, they asked him about dirt sheets and just media and stuff like that, and he actually said he really doesn't mind dirt sheets or shows like this and stuff like that. It's not that we're talking about it. He hates when people ruin spoilers. Spoilers, right? It's in Vince and which, listen, for Vince McMahon to say, and I know a lot of us give Vince a lot of shit, but at the end of the day. He was even saying it in there that, listen, we learned from them. It's a way that we can all kind of communicate, indirectly or whatever, which I totally agree with. And I do think it shows that they are listening. And I totally agree with him when he says that, because I don't like when things are spoiled. That's why I stay away from dirt sheets, because I do like, I still like that surprise element. I think that's one of the funnest, parts about it is the surprise. That being said, I think that Vince is positioning a lot of people right now to kind of, he's setting them up in improv situations. And I think that a lot of times when you deal with, and I don't want to say egos, but when you deal with pride, when you deal with a lot of, and I don't mean that in a negative way either, but I look at it that The Miz is a guy that has had to put up with a lot of criticism his entire career, from when they were making him change in like a janitor closet. You know, they wouldn't even let him in the locker room, to when he was finally, and listen, I think, you know, most of us will agree that it wasn't, that was Punk's year, but that was the first year they wanted to cross over into like a reality kind of era. And The Miz was their bridge. And from a business sense, he was their bridge. But The Miz, I absolutely get his frustrations. He's heard this his entire career, that he wasn't good. Oh, he didn't deserve that spot. The Miz has always done what he's told. He's done more for that company, from marketing, from media to marketing to movies to you name it. The Miz has done, like, has poured more into this company than any of us want to give him credit for. And you and I have been talking, and a lot of us now, you know, have been talking about The Miz for a while. I've been a Miz fan for a very, very, very long time. So I was glad to see this side of him, because you can tell when it gets a little real, because there was something, as Hogan would say, there's lust in your eye, or as Savage said, there's lust in your eyes, Hogan. There was a passion in The Miz's eyes, and like emotion that you could tell it was just this frustration coming out. And even with the Daniel Bryan thing, like, I think there were certain things that kind of cut deep on both sides. And listen, as captivating it is for us, and I think it's extremely captivating, it can also be very dangerous, you know, because the wrong guys in the wrong situation. We have a Jericho Lesnar situation like the other night backstage. Mad props to Jericho, though, by the way. But
yeah, damn right.
Listen, I think that choosing the word coward was just a poor choice of words. And you know, same as Titus, I love Daniel Bryan. I think it was just a bad night for him, because what The Miz said was he hit a lot of nails on. I can't disagree with the word that he said. In fact, I love the fact that I hate that Daniel Bryan was the victim of it, but I would be a hypocrite to sit here and say I didn't love every single minute of it, you know. And it's all true. You can't argue the truth.
Now, to the Daniel Bryan point, I don't know. Like, here's the thing, though. I kind of felt bad for him, where he was saying, like, well, if they let me compete, I would be doing that. And I wonder if there's a thing, if that's true, if there's something inside him where he feels like he can still do this, and maybe there's more to this retirement that's not out there. I don't know. Here's the thing, like Brian's out there. He tried to break up the fight between Carmella and Nikki in the Talking Smack set, and then he has this thing with Miz, and he walks away. I don't know down the road if he could do this again. That's the thing that I was thinking about after I was watching this. I give Miz all the credit. It was an awesome promo, and he, like I said, he elevated his stock way more than he did in the last couple of years, just in that 2 minutes right there. But from a Daniel Bryan point of view, is there more that we don't know about this injury, where maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a thing where Brie forced him to retire? Or I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, again, I think when we look at all the wellness violations right now, I mean, at the end of the day, it's WWE doctors over all doctors. So you could have 80 doctors say one thing. It's almost like the FDA. You know, all these drugs get passed through the FDA with 2 positive tests against 100 negative tests. But as long as you can burn them 100 negative tests and just show the 2 positive ones, you got a drug pass. You know, WWE is controlling their playing God with their talent. You know, I don't agree with. I mean, I don't know what's going on, and I don't want to sit here and try and say. I just think that, you know, like with Eva Marie's suspension, like if it's dealing with with Adderall, like they're saying, and like the timing of paperwork and stuff like that. I mean, I just think that they're trying to play God too much with their talent. Now, with that being said, I want to look at a couple points of view here. When Daniel Bryan came into WWE on NXT, who was his mentor? What championship did Daniel Bryan have when he was forced to retire?
The Intercontinental Championship.
What does The Miz currently have?
The Intercontinental Championship.
WrestleMania 33, it's Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. In my opinion, this was a work that unfortunately turned into a shoot. But I feel like they're planting seeds that if WWE doctors will, for one match only, clear Daniel Bryan, and I stress that, one match only, a retirement match to put him, quote unquote, out of his misery, you keep that title on The Miz all the way till Mania, and then through Mania. Have him drop it the next night on Raw after Mania, or I'm sorry, SmackDown Live. Two nights after WrestleMania. Yeah. To not only, one, retire Daniel Bryan for good. I know he retired, but this whole, I would still wrestle if they let me and this and that. It's what we all think as fans. It's what, so you know what? At the end of the day, and listen, I'm a huge Daniel Bryan fan, and I have nothing but respect for him. But what The Miz said was right. If you want to wrestle, quit the company and go wrestle somewhere else. Or, just shut up about it at this point. I get, and don't call other people cowards when, in a way, I understand it's not Daniel Bryan's fault that he can't wrestle, but you also shouldn't shoot on somebody else's style when it's your own style that got you shelved in the first place.
Yeah. And for all these people that go after Miz saying, oh, who's Miz to say that to the Daniel Bryan? Well, Miz was in Money in the Bank ladder matches and had these type of matches like Bryan had, like I mentioned, the Extreme Rules match that happened a couple months ago. You remember that one? The guy busts his ass. And yeah, maybe he does like flips and planchas all the time every time he has a wrestling match. But he's one of the smartest in-ring workers out of everybody on that roster.
And you know what? Here's who The Miz is. And I just, again, comparison, sometimes perception is anything. I'm not trying to compare the careers, guys. I'm not trying to compare what they can do in the ring. I'm not trying to compare the stories they tell. Daniel Bryan is, yes, he's 30 times the technical wrestler that The Miz is. The Miz is 30 times better on the microphone than Daniel Bryan is. Here's the difference. Daniel Bryan, love him or hate him, headlined a WrestleMania against Batista and Randy Orton. The Miz, love him or hate him or agree with the decision, headlined a WrestleMania with John Cena and The Rock. Two completely different companies. I kind of like The Miz's main event when it comes to, if we're talking name power and star power, he's kind of in a step up when it comes to class warfare there. So I do think The Miz has the right to stick up for himself.
I couldn't agree more, bro. I couldn't agree more. And we'll see what happens. It's gonna be very interesting. People are gonna tune into SmackDown next week to see if they follow up with anything on this. That's gonna be very interesting.
And people forget how over The Miz was going into that WrestleMania too. Like, we look back now, we're like, well, yeah, he didn't deserve it, this and that. It was Punk's year. Listen, you're not gonna find. I mean, there's a lot of us that are big Punk fans, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm like super Punk fan or whatever. But it's just, yes, we knew that he deserved that main event that year. Yeah. But at the same time, there's a lot of us that were still super behind The Miz that year too. And I think it's unfair to when, in hindsight, when you see what they were trying to do, again, that was the springboard into really opening up the reality era where they wanted to cross over into pop culture again, and they wanted to, do crossovers into mainstream media, and it was just timing. And sometimes timing is everything. And he was the right guy at the right place at the right time, and you can't hate on him for that, because any one of us would have done this, would have taken that opportunity. We're not going to say, you know what, nah, Punk deserves it because it was his year, because other people wouldn't do that. Period.
Yeah. It's been a really, really hectic show today, but a really good one. Really great conversation so far. I want to say this, though, for a little shooting the shit thing. I want to say, everybody, if you ever seen the Sausage Party movie, go check that out. It's one of the most oddest and unique movies I've ever seen in my entire life. So if you guys want to see that, go check that out. And also, please leave Jon Stewart alone, folks. Poor guy. Jesus Christ.
You know what? I don't get it. Like, the dude loves the business. They wanted to do a celebrity thing with New Day. I mean, I don't know no matter who you put in that position, they're going to boo. You know what I mean? But so, of course, they're obviously going to go straight after John Cena's politics. And just like I said the other day, who cares what John Stewart thinks politically? Because I disagree with about 90% of WWE's roster and management when it comes to politics. But I still love and appreciate their characters. So why do we have to put politics in everything? Like, I remember a friend of mine said to me one time that, like, he was like, "Oh, I love Ron Funches. I think he's the funniest dude ever. I just don't like his politics." What does that have to do with anything? Who cares? Why does politics have to come first with everything? And whether or not we think that Jon Stewart is the right guest or not, I'd rather have Jon Stewart, somebody that knows what's going on with the business and understands entertainment and can understand the litmus of the temperature of a crowd, versus that Crisley dude or somebody that just has no idea what they're doing out there. Or what do you want, Hoda and Kathy Lee out there again? Is that what we want, guys?
Oh no!
Again, be careful what we wish for. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we pick the wrong hill to die on, man. God,
you're damn right on that one, bro.
And I'm not saying that because I'm a huge Stewart fan. And please, I know that I am. So you're sitting there saying you're just saying that because you were Stewart, Mark. No, I am going to agree with you guys that the segments did flop a little bit. Absolutely, I'm not going to deny that. But I like, it had nothing to do with Stewart. It was the way that they were written. Get over yourselves.
One last thing before we go. Yeah or nay on the new tag titles design?
They make me very happy in all the right places.
I know we were talking a little bit about that before we went on air, actually, about
I love the tag titles. I love the tag titles. I think that it makes the Raw titles look like toys. Like, we've always made that, the tag team titles look like toys. Like, we've always made that joke, like they look like big pennies and stuff. Now I realize it wasn't the design that I didn't like. It's just the color scheme they used. Dude, it looks so sharp. So sharp.
And how about Becky getting a big chant for her during that opening segment? I thought that was pretty cool.
Fans are behind Becky. Right now, I'm a big Becky Lynch, Mark, so I'll hone in on my fandom.
Same here. I
have a crush, man. Leave me alone.
She is straight fire on all fronts. I'm just going to say that. All right, brother, man, it's been a blast this morning, afternoon, whatever you want to call it, but thanks for coming on again. Tell everybody where you can find you on Twitter, and I know you got a little change with your show on a different website. Tell everybody what's going on, my man.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at AdamDaley13. It's weird because I don't really talk about wrestling as much because I'm never live. So, like, I feel bad. I'm like, follow me, then I'm just, like, never there. People are probably like, dick. But it's like that, guys. Please don't think that. But follow me on Twitter at AdamDaley13. Yeah, wrestling with, we were actually going to take a couple-week hiatus. Admittedly, I was burnt to the gills, but in a good way, dude. I mean, it was, it was one of those where, work, play, and then, getting our daughter ready for school just completely wore me out. Plus doing all the charity work and everything that we were doing. SummerSlam weekend kind of wore us out. But over the course of the charity drive, somebody reached out, and you will find our show Wrestling With now featured on mindofcarnage.com.
Nice.
So check us out there. Obviously, you guys know where to find me on the Pipe On with McCool and Company. This lovely show every week, and I do the Wrestling Rumors pre-shows. So I'm really just a media whore. Yeah, and like I make the joke that, like, listen, for as much as people say, like, yeah, I know I'm here and there, and I'm kind of all over the place, and really nobody should really care what my opinions on professional wrestling. I just hope that I can make you guys laugh and stuff. And a lot of people say, well, why do you do so much of it? And it's like, well, you know what? Why do people go to and sit in a bar 20 hours a week? Why do people go? They play, join softball teams or baseball teams. It's just something I like to talk about. And again, that's why I take the comedy route. And if I can at least make you guys crack up, or kind of just like pull in some fantasy booking ideas or outside the box to get you thinking, in a different direction, that's my goal. So hope you guys enjoy, and definitely check out mindofcarnage.com. The pre-show we did for Wrestling Rumors is already on there, and we'll be taping our new episode either tonight or tomorrow night.
You can follow yours truly at WZJoshLopez. I'll be handling more second-round action in the Cruiserweight Classic. It's been a great tournament so far. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of live articles and stuff, I want to give a shout-out to Adam Cole, who won the Ring of Honor World Championship this past Friday night. So big props to not the big man, but Adam Cole is the big man now in the Bullet Club. So congrats out to Adam Cole. I want to give a shout out to our good colleagues and friends, Liz Rainey, Mitchell McMule, as I call him, actually, Brother Salton, Derico06 on Twitter, Sam, of course, and everybody here that's good friends with us here on the show here. The show's on iTunes, Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to leave a review, a rating. It helps us get our name out there. If you like what we bring to the table here, we'd love to get your guys' feedback on it, positive or negative. We'd love to hear from you guys. I want to thank everybody that interacted with us in the chat room today, in the YouTube channel. That was really, really cool. Acer, Ed, Chris, Justin, Browning. Thank you guys so much for checking out today's show.
That's so awesome. That's awesome, man.
That's legit. We'll be back here, of course, next Wednesday, as always. But for Brother Nero Daley, I am Joshua Lopez. This show is now deleted. And it's over.
Delete.
We'll see you next week. Delete.